This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 317, entitled Women's Constant Rejection of My Masculism, Insights for Fourth Quarter Males. Description. This flyer reports on my constant rejection by women who are appalled by my masculism. I may decide to go full MGTOW monk as a result. It also expresses my anger at the hypocrisy of women towards masculist anger, who totally fail to understand why masculists are so angry. For fourth quarter males, that's over 60, much lower libidos allow a man to go MGTOW monk rather easily, so that he can arc, that's ARC, after a retirement career for his final decades. But young men will have problems if they are angry masculists in public, until masculism is so strong and prevalent that women are forced to react to it, and so that many women become female masculists. Fire itself. A bit bigger. Women's constant rejection of my masculism, Insights for Fourth Quarter Males, by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. I feel my life is at a crossroads. In a matter of months, once my subscription to my current e-dating site runs out, I'll have to make a major decision that will affect the rest of my life. That is, whether I will go full MGTOW monk like my father, totally wiping women out of my life, not sexing them, not dating them, not interacting with them, except at supermarket checkouts, and living the MGTOW lifestyle. I may have no choice about this, because in practice, I'm being rejected from all sides by the highly capable women who contact me, and vice versa, because they can't stomach my masculism. My brother tells me that nearly all PhD'd women in Oz, that's slang for Australia, are feminists and will not tolerate any criticism coming from men, hence coming from masculists. These women know nothing about masculism, so with their feminist lenses, they interpret masculist critiques of women as just more misogynist attacks on women, and hence they reject these attacks as well as the men who make them. Since I'm a masculist that is ideologically committed to an angry attack on fluffy parasites and fluffy feminist hypocrisy, especially in the divorce courts, my views are anathema to these highly capable PhD'd women who are mostly feminists. I'm getting heftily rejected left and right, so even if I want to have a twef, brackets 2A, 2F equals 2 apartments, 2 FIPS, relationship with a woman, I may be forced into a TFL position, that is, true forced loneliness position, due to universal female rejection of masculism and masculists. Of course, this constant rejection hurts, so I have less peace of mind than I had in my last years of the 12 that I lived in China before migrating to Oz some 4+ months ago. In China, I knew that I would leave for Oz in August of 2018, and since I was actually afraid to get fluent in Chinese, in brackets, through fear of letting fly with my utter hatred of the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, which under Mao killed 80 million of its own citizens. I knew that it would be impossible for me to have a relationship with a new Chinese woman, so I just accepted that fact and got used to it. Now, I suffer the anxiety of rejection time after time, so have decided that I will continue using the e-dating site that I'm currently a member of until it runs out in 4 months. If I haven't met a highly capable PhD'd woman by then who is sympathetic to masculism and men's gender plight, then I will decide to wipe my hands of women and live the full MGTOW monk lifestyle, the way my father has for the past 3 decades, although probably for very different reasons, in brackets, namely to avoid the risk of having a relationship with another nagging bitch of a woman who was his wife, my mother, whom I definitely did not respect as a human being. She was a shrew. I compare my current somewhat anxious state with my greater peace of mind I had in the last years of my 12-year stay in China, and come to the conclusion that if I do decide to wipe my hands of women, then that will give me the relative peace of mind I had in China. This constant rejection by feministed women also strongly annoys me due to its hypocrisy. These women are reacting viscerally, shocked by the masculist videos I invite them to watch to see if they can tolerate a man who has masculist views. In brackets, otherwise, time and energy invested in them would be utterly wasted when these women reject the masculist in me. In brackets. These women know nothing about masculism for the simple reason that masculist ideas have yet to penetrate the broadcast media. In brackets. Which will be one of my main tasks for 2019. All they see is some male ranting about the gender crimes of women and feel no sympathy towards sin. This lack of sympathy may be inherent in women's nature. That may be a reality that men will have to live with, despite its abhorrence to men. If you look at the fact that 1/4 of mothers financially massacre and destroy the lives of their ex-husbands, shows pretty clearly what women truly think of men, that is, as disposable cash machines living on this earth to pay for women to have babies. This nature of women the MGTOWs call the red pill, that is, that women don't love men, but rather men's sexploitability. It's a bitter pill to swallow for men, a process called getting red-pilled. I suspect these rejecting women are shocked to hear a man, via my masculist videos, intellectually, ideologically attacking women for being fluffy parasites, fluffy feminist hypocrites, etc. They feel alarmed by it. I know this because I've got into the habit of observing women closely when I mention to them that I'm a masculist. I watch closely the fear that flashes unconsciously across their eyes for a split second before their conscious mind takes control of their feelings. My suspicion is that these women interpret masculism as a rejection of women, which it is to some extent, but not of all categories of women. For example, for myself, I quite like sage fips, in brackets, sage equals intellectual, fip equals financially independent person, in brackets, and try to date them. But sage fips tend to be feminazis, so it's difficult for me. Women are also herd animals more so than men. Women evolved to have a same-sex solidarity because their survival in ancient times depended on it. A woman who lost her meat-providing male and who could not quickly monkey branch by sexploiting some other male, for example because she was ugly, old, psycho, etc., would only survive in times of starvation. If other women would only survive in times of starvation if other women would give her some of the meat they were given by their hunting men. That is, women stick together more than men stick together. When masculists attack women, justifiably in masculists' opinion, it's therefore not surprising, given the above, that women feel collectively attacked, so instinctively tend to circle the wagons, go on the defensive, in support of women as a sex, or what the MGTOWs label as self-group preference. But to masculists, this feminist rejection of masculist ideas and of masculists is deeply hypocritical and generates even more masculist contempt for women. To masculists, this hypocrisy can be spelled out as follows. Women, feminists, feel it's okay for women to lash out at men for the ways men oppress women, that feminist literature is full of, but the reverse is not acceptable by women. That is, the idea that men, that masculists, attack women for the ways that women oppress men. For example, female financial parasitism, female manslavery, fluffy feminist hypocrisy in the divorce courts, women's red-pilled nature, that is, not loving men, but loving men's sexploitability, female tooth-and-nail opposition of the legislation of the paternity rejection right, etc. It's deeply threatening to women to hear angry masculists haranguing them, saying such things as, "You women have to fip up," that is, become fips, or be rejected by men, forced to rot on the shelf to extinction. To be told that women's princess entitlement mentality is a delusion, given science's clear declaration that women are the inferior sex, with their 4 IQ point lower average IQs than men, 10% lower IQ variance than men, much lower testosterone levels than men, hence are less aggressive, less ambitious, less performant, less dogged at finishing difficult tasks than men, etc. Women evolved to be prostitutes to men, to be better able to sexploit men, so that men could be persuaded to give women and their babies scarce male-hunted meat.
"You men, you give me some of your meat, and I, woman, will give you some of my cunt."
Thus, at a deep level, all women know that their very survival depends on them connecting with a man. It's only for the past half-century that women have been given, by men, effective contraception, so that they were able to have their own careers and hence become fips. But for nearly all of their history, women have been dependent on men. So when a woman hears the angry, bitter harangues of a masculist, she feels instinctive fear, because withdrawal of men's support for women in the past has always been profoundly existentially threatening for women, a fear which has been embedded in her DNA. Hence the instantaneous fear reaction of women when they first hear the word masculist. So, what are younger masculists to do if they want to get some sex from younger women? Question mark. It will take years for the masculist message to penetrate the whole culture. Look at how long it took the feminist message to penetrate. Given my age and my interest in feminism as a model for masculism, with a lot of carryover from feminist ideology to masculist ideology, for example, consciousness raising, gender oppression, fairing the gender laws, pregnancy rejection rights, etc. I followed the development of feminism closely, and I can tell you it took several decades for the basic feminist ideas to penetrate to the female working class, that is, the dumbest third of women. It will probably take a similar amount of time for masculist ideas to penetrate through all levels of the culture, and possibly even longer due to the hypocritical opposition of the feminazis against masculism, that the feminazis only see as further examples of misogynist oppression of women by men, utterly missing the point. It's this callousness of the feminazis, which is why masculists label feminazis as feminazis, that only increases the hatred of masculists for them. Masculists see these one-eyed feminazis not only as profound hypocrites, but as sadists, pushing for the financial crucifixion of men in the divorce courts, that is, behaving as feminists in the parliaments, but as fluffy parasites in the divorce courts, and hence indirectly wiping out whole populations, because these fluffy feminist sadists have made divorce so toxic for men, with one father in 4 destroyed by them, that they have made marriage and paternity toxic for men, so that in many countries now, 2/3 of young men under 35 refuse to marry, reject paternity, and go MGTOW, many of whom don't even date women, for example, the herbivore, that's grass eater, men in Japan. So what can young men do to get the sex they need if they are angry masculists and get rejected universally by women? Question mark. They can hide their masculist views and pursue a pump and dump strategy. If the dumped woman complains, then the masculist dumper can hit back that if women accepted masculist ideas, then young men would not be forced to hide their masculist views. In my own case, the Prof. Doctor in front of my name makes me a high status male, and that attracts women who evolve to be hypogamous, that is, having the instinct to marry/mate up. with a superior male to get his superior DNA for her kids, which is good for the species. But I'm finding the moment they learn about my masculist views, they do a complete U-turn and hack off. Since I'm in my 70s and a fourth quarter male, that is over 60, and for most fourth quarter males retired, my libido has pretty well dried up. So not getting the quantity of sex that I was so cunt hungry for in earlier decades of my life is not a big deal. So, if no suitable female masculist, PhD'd female comes along in the next 4 months before my e-dating company subscription runs out, then I will decide to go full MGTOW monk and wipe my hands of women and just accept that the rest of my life will be womanless. That acceptance will give me more peace of mind than I have now and will allow me to plunge more into my arcing, that's after retirement careering, of being a globicator, global educator, making 120 plus YouTube lecture courses in master's and PhD level pure math and math physics for students to be able to educate themselves in these subjects for free, as well as making e-libraries using Google links to full content textbooks in these topics. Doing all that will be challenging and demanding and will keep me strongly focused and busy. But younger masculists have a real problem. Younger men have a hunger for sex from women, so until the sex bots come out, they will have to hide their masculism until such time that masculist ideas are so prevalent in our cultures that women are forced to adapt to them. Otherwise, they won't get any man to pay attention to them. So it's in the self-interest of young masculists to join forces with the older, especially fourth quarter masculists like myself, to push for masculist publicity with the journalists and media people, to educate these women, to turn some of them into female masculists. Most MGTOWs are young, in their 20s and 30s, that is first harbour males, under 40. And it is they who dominate production of MGTOW videos. There are hardly any fourth quarter MGTOWs or masculists, so my fourth quarter male masculist views are not frequently heard in the MGTOW/masculist communities. But fourth quarter masculists are older and wiser due to their age and experience, and hence are in a position to educate their younger and much younger male peers. I suppose one major lesson for younger men is that once your libido dries up by the time you're in your 60s, and if you are health conscious and do all the work to stay healthy, for example, walk daily, eat fruit/vegetables, vitamins, etc., then you can expect to live into your 90s. Experience shows. So you can quite happily forget about women for your final few decades and concentrate on your arcing, not being a man-slave and attention slave to some femalian. As a bit of an afterthought, it's quite possible that the reasons given above for why women are universally rejecting my masculism is only half true. It may be the case that these women are sensing that at a deep level, I really don't like women much, seeing them really as walking cunts, as not respect-worthy, who have child minds, who can't do math and physics, so can't share my intellectual passions with them, are useless to society, except for their two traditional monopolies of being baby factories/child raisers and supplying pussy for men. But these two monopolies will soon be superseded by male engineers, as seeing women are femalians, not to be taken seriously, so as a sex, these women understandably feel denigrated, demeaned, so don't want to have anything to do with such a masculist man. Recently, I read some of Schopenhauer's views on women. He wrote a rather famous little book of his aphorisms. One chapter was called On Women. When I read it, I thought, how true. So I'm just another Schopenhauer, the philosopher. To finish off, here are some quotes from him that men will find amusing because of their truthful cynicism that Schopenhauer is famous for. Quote, "One needs only to see the way she is built to realize that woman is not intended for great mental or for great physical labor." End quote. Quote, Women are suited to being the nurses and teachers of our earliest childhood precisely because they themselves are childish, silly and short-sighted. In a word, big children. Their whole lives long, a kind of intermediate stage between the child and the man, who is the actual human being, man. One is only to watch a girl playing with a child, dancing and singing with it the whole day, and then ask oneself what, with the best will in the world, a man could do in her place. End quote. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. In brackets, contains links to 300 plus YouTube masculist essays/videos and minds and BitChute. And to the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man's Slaves to Women, an e-textbook of 300 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses. Ciao.